Wait a second. You are not doing this for me. You are doing this for yourself.
According to Laith Marouf, I'm not more than a Zionist soldiers.
Jews are willing to die for everything. The liberation of anything on this planet, except the liberation of Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims.
Jews die for what they believe in, but they don't die for Palestine.
I'm, as a Palestinian nationalist, I do it for the Palestinian people.
And I actually do not owe you a thank you. Do we know any Jew in historic Palestine that is hiding Palestinians from being victims?
Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive Perspective. Is Israel now a Jewish supremacist state? Is it a Zionist state? What is the makeup? Benjamin Netanyahu keeps saying it's a Jewish state. Many rabbis within Israel call it a Jewish state. Yet around the world, we're told it's a Zionist state. Now, there are contradictions there in the words that are coming from sometimes the Jewish community, but also the movement that exists to try and dismantle Israel. What's the reality? We're going to dig into this and also the current situation within occupied Palestine with my esteemed guests. In the studio, I have Rabbi Hayem Sohra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
A member of the Natura Kartai, well known for their activism against Israel and against Zionism here in Britain and around the world generally. Online, I have two more fantastic guests. Brother Laith Marouf, a journalist extraordinaire and well known for his war correspondence, and the ongoing attack on Lebanon is something which he's covering in a big way right now. Again, Israel doing its usual thing, which is to bomb its neighbors. And Laith is there risking his own life. So we pray for his well-being now and in the future. And of course, we have another warrior of the anti-Israeli cause, I'll call it, Gilad Atzmon, probably the most notorious early anti-Israeli, somebody who's himself voluntarily said he is an ex-Israeli because he simply doesn't want to be related in any way. And he's been attacked. He's been called an anti-Semite, even though he was born a Jew, and he's been called many other things. But fundamentally, he's an artist. He's a musician. He's a philosopher. And we've had shows here where he's educated us about a lot of things to do with Judaism. Begin with Laith on the ground, because you're the man who knows what's happening. Laith, we've got a ceasefire apparently in Palestine. Any sign of a ceasefire? Are we seeing a ceasefire there, or is something else going on?
Yeah, of course, there's no ceasefire. It's a continuation of the genocide of the Palestinian people that started over 100 years ago in different intensity than it was during the height of the war on Gaza. This is going to continue either, and the end is going to be either one of two. There's no third option in front of us. Either the Palestinian people and much of the people around occupied Palestine are genocided completely, and the Muslim people are subjugated as a whole, or there will be an end to the Jewish colony. There's no third option. This is where we're heading. And this war that started on October 7th is existential, as Netanyahu himself and the other Jewish supremacist colonist leaders have told us. And they are truthful in that manner. And we're going to continue on this path until one of those two options come to fruition.
Benjamin Netanyahu remains in power. He looks like he's unassailable. Anybody who's in opposition to Benjamin Netanyahu also sounds pretty much like Benjamin Netanyahu. They seem to be all happy with the genocidal approach, the ethnic cleansing. There seems to be no desire for any real peacemaking. And they all seem to be quite happy with the idea of expanding the territories of Palestine to include not only Judea Samaria, but also go beyond into Lebanon as well. Gilad, is it business as usual? Do you see the state of Israel in any way learning its lessons, in any way being able to go back from the precipice, which it seems to be pushing for, a live genocide, also a complete rejection around the world of their status in a way of being a kind of a genuine state, and their general, if you like, reputation. Do you see any changes? Do you see anything changing from within Israel?
Absolutely not. And the reason is, and you hinted in this direction, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the disease, he is a symptom of a very serious disease. And the disease is the way in which Jewish identity in the modern era is constructed, and people used to call it the Jewish question. Zionism was a product of this question. Jews, following emancipation of the world Jewry in the 19th century, are defined by negation. To be defined by negation means that you are not solely defined by what you are, but by what you are not. So they are Jews because they are not Goyim. They are Israeli living in Palestine, but they are not Palestinians. It is always the negation that define this segregatory identity, this exclusive identity. Now, when negative dialectics, negation, is defining objects like the bed is not a chair, it's not a computer, it's not a bottle of water, it's not a problem. When we use this tactic on people, it entails constant negation. And what we see in Israel, it is running into more and more conflicts, and they like it. They like it. Benjamin Netanyahu is sustaining this constant war because this is exactly how the Jews in Israel feel united. Now, somebody asked me, there is a kind of a meter that is measuring the happiness of people around the world, and Israel is at the very top. Despite the genocide, despite that they are in a war, despite that they're getting kind of Iranian missiles on their head, they like it like that, which is very, very unique. And it makes them, in a way, almost unbeatable, regardless of the fact that they will be beaten eventually. And I don't think that it's going to take much longer.
Rabbi Haim, you grew up in occupied Palestine. You don't believe in an Israel. You believe in its dismantlement. And you've heard what Gilad and Laith have said. It sounds like it's going to be business as usual. What do you think of the state of Israel in terms of where it's headed? What do you think is...
It's heading to destruction, inshallah. It's heading to complete destruction. The genocide is continuing from the 1921. That was the first expulsion of Palestinians, 60,000 Palestinians from the Galil, from the northern Palestine. When they bought land from Turkish officers, they bought a piece of land, and there was sitting there 60,000 indigenous Palestinians on the land, and they kicked them out. That was the beginning of the Nakba of the Palestinians, not in 1948. 1948 was much later on. In the 20s, the Nakba was continued. Yep, they stole more land and confiscated more land from in the help, unfortunately, of the British government, of the British mandate at that time. In 1936, the Palestinian military power that has been destroyed in the Great Palestinian Revolt by the British Army was added by 3,000 Zionist terrorists that was joined to the... They were not part of the British Army. They were joining as a task force to destroy the Palestinian military force. And that's how the Palestinians left over with that military power in the Nakba of 48. They left only with 4,000 mujahideen, members of the Jaish al-Jihad al-Muqaddas, at the command of the great leader Abdul Qadir al-Husseini. His soul may rest in peace. And then 1.3 million Palestinians have been expelled viciously from 731 villages, towns, and cities in Palestine. Instead of them, they brought us, the Arab Jews. My parents coming from Iraq. My father have served 5 years in the Iraqi army. He was Iraqi nationalist. And from him, I've learned to be a Palestinian nationalist in Palestine. I read a lot about the Palestinian nationalist and was inflamed, and I was inspired very strongly by nationalist Palestinian spirit. I joined the Tirkata, but just not just as an anti-Zionist member. I was very actively advocated and supported the right of return of the Palestinians. I brought to the Jews the recognition of the suffer of the Palestinians in 14 Palestinian refugee camps in West Bank, 6 Palestinian refugee camps in Gaza, 12 Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon, and in Syria as well, and in Jordan. And I campaigned till now for the right of return, for the dismantling of this vicious, Zionist, filthy, supremacist entity. I participate a lot in demonstrations for Palestinians people, for Palestine, against stolen land, killing of innocent children. I was jailed because of that. I was sustained to a systematic beating in the Zionist jail, which when I talk to you now, my face are very painful because of the smacks which I used.
Torture.
I was tortured. I was denied food and drinking. I was really treated bad. I was tied up with Palestinian brothers because they wanted to break me. But I told them that makes me happy to be tied up with Palestinian prisoners. Was after being ousted of Palestine, and I joined the Tirkata abroad, but I campaigned a lot for both for right to returns and lately to raise fundraising.
Are you exiled from Israel?
Exactly, yes.
Oh,
I burned my Zionist passport, and I'm proud to be a British citizen. I'm a British citizen. I keep the law and I pay taxes for the British government. But at the same time, I'm campaigning for the dismantling of the Zionist entity, for the right of return, and for the establishment of Palestinian state from the river to the sea, from Ein Zaitun, that's in the northwest part of Lebanon. That's one of the most closest villages to the border with Lebanon. There was a massacre there, which no one talks about. Many people talk about the massacre of this year. They were seeing Tantura, Jaffa, but there was many more massacres, that's one of the villages that they blew up tens of houses with Palestinian women with their children, and then they burned the bodies. I don't know if Mr. Light knows about it, but I know I researched it very much. I researched the Nakba of the Palestinians very strongly. I live with it. I live with the Palestinians Nakba. I join here to many events of fundraising for Gaza children. They invite me to speak. But unfortunately, everything, according to Laith Marouf, is nothing. I'm very disappointed. I'm very sad. I'm nothing. I'm not more than a Zionist soldiers who murder Palestinian children.
Laith, I think
I'm very happy to hear it.
I think we might have found our first Mujahid Jew.
I'm very sad to hear that all what I did for the Palestinian people.
Come in on this, Laith.
I'm not less than Netanyahu. Well, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Look, I just want to be very clear that there's, of course, a huge difference between the Zionists that are carrying arms and are killing our people and anti-Zionists that are speaking against this or risking some oppression and repression to stop the crimes being committed in the name of Judaism. I don't want you to compare those two. But I also want to make sure that you understand that there is nothing that you are doing for me as a Palestinian. And I actually do not owe you a thank you. I just want to make very clear, although I'm very polite and nice, and I actually acknowledge people's sacrifices, but you are not doing this for me. You are doing this for yourself, because in your name, as a Jewish rabbi, there is millions of Jews that are carrying arms to kill my people and steal my land and rape my children in your name, in the name of your religion. So just to be very clear there. And what I'm asking is not that you die for Palestine. I'm asking you to die for Judaism.
Well, I'm willing to
Either-
die for you,
Wait a second,
Mr. Laith.
Wait a second. I also can accept less than death as a sacrifice. I can accept a Schindler's, a Oscar Schindler. We have all these Natura Carta followers that are in Palestine. Do we know any of them that hid Palestinians in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, in 1948, in Gaza, from being genocided? Do we know one Oscar Schindler that is Jewish equivalent of that? And of course, Oscar Schindler is a propaganda, and we know it's not true, and we know he was working with the Nazis. That's a different story. But do we know any Jew in historic Palestine that is hiding Palestinians from being victims? Do we know any Jews in the West that are hiding Palestinians from the oppression that is coming to their name? Was there any Jews that went and tried to hide one of the victims of Palestinian student activists that were being called by ICE to be deported and tortured in ICE camps? We don't. So I don't need you to die for Palestine. I need you to show the world in your actions that you are willing to sacrifice to save Judaism and its honor. Okay?
That's an interesting. That's a really interesting angle. And Gilad, come in on that, please.
No, I think that this is a very, very strong point, the way Laith presented it. And it's the nail, because the problem that we have with when it comes to the Jewish so-called anti-Zionism, it's a lot of jargons, it's a lot of words, it's a lot of zigzagging around around Jewish sensitivities, but it lacks the most important thing, a real commitment. Now, people don't speak about it, but Jews are very good in dying for the causes that they believe in. 1936, people don't know it, but the International Brigade, the Lingua Franca, was Yiddish. They went to fight. Yeah, millions of Jews came to Israel to participate in this horrendous project called Jewish nationalism. Tons of soldiers come, they fly to the IDF from the United States, from Holland, from Britain. Yeah,
Gilad, there was a Jewish resistance in Nazi Germany, wasn't there? There was an armed resistance,
really?
Wasn't there?
There was. This is a very, as I said, Jews die for what they believe in, but they don't die for Palestine. All right, this whole solidarity thing is all about jargon, suffocating us with wrong models that zigzag around the centrality of the Jewish thing.
Well,
and
is this
comes now to a point where we don't buy it anymore.
Is this
And you
also
can see
because the finance and the power and the might of the US Treasury, its military, and the entire infrastructure of the Anglo-Zionist Empire, which props up Israel, is so powerful that their intelligence services, the Shin Bet, the Mossad, etc. Do you think it's just asking a little bit too much of Jews within occupied Palestine who are against the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu, who might have views which are anti-genocidal? Is it too much to ask for them, Rabbi Haim? What do you think? Are they asking too much here?
First of all, my brother life, if you would like to know people that sacrificed a little bit, not death, yeah, for the Palestinian people, there was a few cases in Bnei Brak, which is not the Terra Carta city. It's an anti-Zionist city mostly. And there was Palestinian bus drivers that during the work daily were attacked by Zionist settler terrorist mob. And they were saved by yeshiva buchurim. They saved by college Jewish rabbinical boys. And they saved them. They pushed them out of the bus and they were beaten up in order to save the bus driver. That's happened not once. It's happened already 12 times. I counted it. It's been videoed. There's 2 videos about it. And I heard that there's many more cases that was not videoed. The one you speak to, yes, were hiding so-called illegal Palestinian workers from the West Bank. When they used to come to work in area of Mea Shearim in Beth Israel, that's the neighborhood that used to live, there was a lot of Zionist police inspection to check if there is illegal Palestinian workers. So there was, when they used to come to hide by my apartment for many more than a few hours. I used to provide them food and water till the police left, and then I told them you can go back to your work. Mm-hmm. And this thing happened not only by one person; it's happened by hundreds of Jews that on a daily basis hiding Palestinians that come to works in our neighborhoods, because in order to show them solidarity, to feel their pain, to feel their sympathy. So it's not, I don't understand why Life always say that what I do is for myself. Could be I benefit from that, truly. But I'm, as a Palestinian nationalist, I do it for the Palestinian people. I call for the establishment of Islamic Caliphate. I don't know if you heard about it. I'm a very strongly about advocating of establishment of establishing Islamic Caliphate to replace this ugly pro-Zionist Arab regimes from Morocco till Pakistan. I would always talk about a central Islamic power that would respect all religions and that will tolerate the Jews. We will be willing to pay the jizya. It's not an empty words. I advocate for it very strongly. Could be, it has to be.
Well, it
has to be done more than what we do.
By the way,
but you cannot underestimate and just water down everything what we did for the Palestinian people.
Gilad,
for nothing.
Gilad.
Yeah, just to add a small anecdote, but we cannot deny the fact that it exists. There are not many. There are very few Israelis who actually very bravely act as body shields in the West Bank, and they are very often beaten by settlers. This exists. This phenomenon exists in Israel. We can see some videos of it on the net. A relative of mine kind of ended up kind of in intensive care after being beaten by these lunatic settlers. These things they do exist, but they are very minor, and it is not anti-Zionist Jews. It is Israelis who actually really cannot take any longer any more the shift that their society is going through.
Okay, Laith,
just a small anecdote.
Let's kind of wind it up more with the situation of Israel itself. In reality, or occupied Palestine, I should call it, it's been shut down in many ways. The rockets that came from Iran, the resistance that exists within the Palestinian movement, within its confines, the Palestinian community that lives inside the occupied Palestinian territory are clearly, obviously, not going to be happy with the situation, and there is unrest in places like Hebron and others, and there's a crackdown, of course. And we know that the northern and southern areas, whether it was Ashkelon or Kiryat Shemona, they've not been re-inhabited. And of course, Gaza is not subjugated. So Benjamin Netanyahu still hasn't succeeded in any of his objectives, not destroyed Hamas, not been able to take out Gaza completely, and he's certainly not being able to hold his own in Lebanon. You know, isn't the writing on the wall for the Israelis? And are they going to take the hint that actually the longer they go on with this insane policy of attacking everybody and anybody, that's just going to make their situation even tougher in terms of any kind of survival in that region? Do you think any kind of penny is likely to drop anytime soon?
Look, Gilad brought up the issue of the around 4,000 or 5,000 Jews that gathered from all around the world to fight Franco during the quote-unquote Spanish Civil War in the 1930s. And after the images of Guernica and the massacre there, and I was just there, by the way, last week in the Kingdom of Spain and in Basque Country. And what is crazy was not only that these Jews were willing to go and get martyred in Spain for human liberation as general acts, but you know that there was actually Palestinians that went and fought on the side of the partisans and other Arabs and Muslims that fought against Franco, and that they're forgotten. And in fact, their writings when they came back was mainly complaining about the racism, especially that many of those Jewish quote-unquote anti-fascists that were fighting in Spain were actually Zionists coming from occupied Palestine and were buried in Basque Country and in Catalonia. And their burial stones says Palestine, these Jewish colonists, these Zionist Jewish colonists. And the Palestinians that died in Spain, nobody knows where their grave is. Look, these issues are very, these are raw issues. This is not an issue of ideology and religion. My brother, Rabbi, I am happy for the sacrifices and the things that you say. But honestly, if there is thousands of Jews that can carry arms in Spain, thousands more that can carry arms against the apartheid regime in South Africa, including one becoming the Minister of Defense of the ANC, Ronnie Castralis, who became the Minister of Defense of the African National Conference, the ANC. And there's Jews that can carry arms in Latin America against the fascists there. And there is not one Jew that wants to carry arms against the Zionists. It feels to me, whether these Jews are leftist or really religious or not, that's a different argument that we can go into. But it feels to me that Jews are willing to die for everything, the liberation of anything on this planet, except the liberation of Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. And they're willing to carry arms against anybody except other Jews. That's what it feels to me.
Rabbi Sohra?
I would like to react on the honorable brother Laith.
Yes.
First of all, there is a lot of Jews in Palestine that willing to run a revolt, armed revolt against the Zionist entity. However, there's Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman have said that we should conduct. It's not the idea of conducting an armed revolution against the Zionist entity and to free Palestine from a Jewish aspect was not born by Laith Marouf. It was born by Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman. He was murdered by the Second World War. And he said that we Jews have to conduct an armed revolt against the Zionist entity. However, we have lack of leaders, lack of training, lack of since the religious scholars are very busy with studying the Torah the whole day, it's hard for himself to imagine how it's going to be conducted practically. But it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. Of course, it has to be done more sacrifice from the anti-Zionist Jews for Palestine, to free Palestine against this supremacist Zionist racist entity. However, we're not allowed to underestimate and water down the good things that we do for the Palestinian people. We remove the stain from the Palestinians that they're anti-Semite and terrorists. My campaign is to show that the Intifada, the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and the resistance in Gaza and the West Bank to the Zionist occupation has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Palestinians are not anti-Semite, they're friendly people, they saved Jews many times, they accepted Jews, they opened the doors for Jews in Palestine at the time of Khalif Omar Khattab, at the time of the Khalif Sultan al-Nasir Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi. Palestinians throughout the generations were very generous for Jews. And we have to say a big thank you for them. And we have to help them in their struggle to free Palestine.
Okay, what's your message? Gilad.
I'm quite upset by what I hear now from the esteemed rabbi, as if Neturei Karta or one Jew or another kosherizing the Palestinians. This is an insane argument that suggesting to us that the discourse of the liberation of the oppressed is determined by and guided by the oppressor. This is something that has never happened in history, and this is exactly the most dangerous hegemony of Jews within the solidarity movement. And this is something that is unacceptable, and this is something that led to the genocide or contributed to the genocide because it created an impunity. Because it's the Jews who are saying that Palestine, okay, they are not anti-Semite. The Palestinians don't need this kosherizing adventure, this kosherizing apparatus. They are the oppressed. Their land has been taken. Everybody on this panel agrees that they have the right of return and they don't need a certificate from a rabbi.
Well,
I think
Laith.
just be I second, of course, Gilad, but just to be a little bit gentle, maybe at some point decades ago, it was required that me as a Palestinian have some Jews beside me to show that I am human, and what I'm saying is echoed by some Jew. But we're past that point. There's a collective
Absolutely.
consciousness on a global scale, and even within Western societies, every survey has showed us now that everybody knows that Palestinians are oppressed and the Jews are the oppressor. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so and I'm glad to hear from Rabbi Haim that there was a rabbi from Neturei Karta that called for armed liberationist struggle for Judaism and for the liberation of Palestine from the hold of these Zionist usurpers of Judaism. Well, you know what? We haven't seen that come into action, and we need it to come to action. I don't need Rabbi Haim or other rabbis from Neturei Karta to try to tell me about the amazing actions they already did. I know them. I've memorized every action that every Jew did to support Palestine, believe me. Whether they're secular, which is an oxymoron thing to say you're a secular Jew, or you are religious. I know every action. I know every faction. I know every sacrifice. Now you have told me that there is a rabbi from within Natura Carta that said armed struggle is the way. So that means that you're not a purely non-violent pacifist sect or organization. The question is not anymore, is this conflicting with your religious belief? The question is right now, why aren't you advocating it publicly and picking up arms? If there is now British government approval for Jews to carry arms in the United Kingdom, why is it only the Zionists that are going to do that? Why is it that it's okay in the United States to have militias? Everybody has the right to form a militia in the United States. Why isn't Natura Carta forming militias, carrying arms, and marching through the streets, protecting the demonstrators for the liberation of Palestine? I am putting uncomfortable questions, not to challenge the rabbi or to make him uncomfortable, but to hopefully get him and the other rabbis that love Judaism and want to defend its honor to actually take action. Because yes, it will help in the liberation of Palestine, but you know what? First and foremost, it will help in the liberation of Judaism. And I am with you that you should start with that. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that you try to liberate Judaism. No, no, no. That's actually your primary duty. And your primary duty to liberate Judaism will help in the liberation of Palestine. Nothing else that you do will help in the liberation of Palestine if you do not challenge for the liberation of Judaism.
Wow, powerful stuff. Rabbi Hayem, if you want a last word on it, otherwise we've come to the end of the show. If you feel there's something you want to add to that.
As I said, you were asking me, I would like to answer the question, where is the state of Israel is leading?
Yes.
It's leading to its destruction, as thank God, its legitimacy has been vanished. They cannot use anymore what the cause of the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust, the Second World War, as an excuse to genocide and holocausting the Palestinians. The Palestinian genocide will eventually be the reason to destroy the state of Israel. There's even in America, there's a huge, the youth, most of 80% of the youth, Democratic Republicans are anti-Zionist, they're pro-Palestinian, very strongly. There's no future for this Zionist entity to keep receiving billions, tens of billions of dollars in order to finance its genocidal, expansionist policies in Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Jordan. That's where they're heading to. Gaza was only the preface, was only the beginning, was the test how genocide works and how can they survive it. And then they exported it to Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Jordan. It's not going to help to the king who lives in Jordan, that is a pro-Zionist. He's going to be eventually ousted from his post. They need the water in Jordan. They need the fields in Jordan. They would like to take Iraq even. They would like to take the rich natural water resources of the Euphrates and the Dijlat in Iraq. They need the natural water resources in Syria and in Lebanon. And however, they're making big mistakes because they're turning the whole world against them. Well, our job, as Laith has said, is to turn the anti-Zionist Jews to be active pro-Palestinians, more and more active. Yes, as he wish. Yes, truly, we're not perfect. We didn't do everything that we could do, but we do. We're, as the rabbi said, we do a lot among the hundreds of thousands of anti-Zionist Jews to change them from anti-Zionist to active pro-Palestinian. That's our job. And we didn't reach this goal, but Allahu Alam, we hope to reach this goal. And our goal is basically to receive Palestine back again for the Palestinians, bring back Mr. Laith to Haifa, him with another 7 million Palestinians who lives abroad. He should go back to his house, to his village, to his farm, to grow, to eat from the dates and from the tin wal zaytun, but making milk his own milk from the goats and sheep that he will have, inshallah. I want to see him in his own house, not next to it, not far away from it, in his own house that was viciously stolen and robbed by the Zionist entity, the Plan D, the famous plan, the notorious Plan D of the Zionist entity. My dream is to come to visit Palestine when I'll see its Palestinian flags all over Palestine. I would like to see Masmia, the village right not far away from Ascalon, being settled from Palestinian refugees from Gaza back to their land, back to Ascalon, Ashdod, Bir Saba. I would like to see all 12 Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon being dismantled, vanished, and all of them coming to Qafilat al-Sumud, Qafilat Palestine, coming back to their villages. The people say, oh, that's my village, that's my house. Please come, I will put him into his house, welcome, and I will give him a kick back in his face. So live well, live nicely. And I hope to be part of these great nations. Palestinians are, I would like to remind to life, are not only Muslims, are Christians and Jews, and Palestinians will, I hope, will not genocide us as an act of revenge of what happened to them. What happened to them is a simple Holocaust. It's a Holocaust with all commentaries. There's nothing to talk about. Palestinians have lost from 1948 till now about 500,000 people. The last 250,000 people that were genocided through diseases, bombs, and starvation, it was only part of all long change of genocide. And they have to be compensated by the world Jewry. Then when he comes back to Haifa, where is he going to come back? We're going to give him a tent? He has to receive an apartment that was robbed from him. And most of these villages have been wiped out. It has to be rebuilt with the Jewish money. Yes. The Zionist Jews who destroyed it has to pay back for it.
Well, I'm going to conclude there. I could go on another hour with this, but you've all been wonderful.
I just wanted to show to life how serious I am and how strongly Palestinian I am.
Yeah, no.
Could be I didn't do much. I'm very sorry. But I hope that he's not considering me anymore as a Zionist.
Well,
I hope he will consider me as a real Palestinian nationalist. Yes, that will. I work very hard for really true. I give my life for Palestine, for the Palestinian people. I think life has smelled it. However, life it's not enough. We need to hear from you more. So, inshallah, Mr. Life, you're going to hear more from us. In order to be part of this great nation, and there'll be really hundreds of thousands pro-Palestinian Jews that will be part of this great in the Palestinian nation that's going to be reestablished in ancient Palestine, inshallah. And I want to really see them live happily, the same as really Palestinians have when you see when they harvest their zaituns, their olives. They're really happy. It's a whole culture around it. I would like to see this Bayarat al-Tin was Zaytun, not only in the West Bank. I want to see it all over Palestine.
Well, it sounds like a beautiful dream.
Can I just
Gilad.
say a word? My take from what I heard in the last, 40 minutes, I see a freedom fighter, a very brave man, completely honest. And I see a rabbi suffocating us with a lot of words. And I believe that his heart is in the right place. I don't have any doubt about it. And the conclusion for me that coincides with your question is that the Palestinians will have to liberate themselves. The Lebanese will have to win this war themselves. The Iranians are winning this war themselves. And the whole region will have to emancipate itself. And it's about to do so. And my conclusion is that Jewish anti-Zionism, the way it is now, is not going to help a lot. It is an obstacle. The way things stands, even the great Neturei Karta. I'm sorry, it's so many words, and lack of commitment.
Look, I wanna, maybe end it on a good note here.
You're good at it,
man. I know my words sometimes are very uncomfortable and shocking, and it is needed sometimes to do so, in order to make people come out of the bubble that they are in or the comfort zone of routine, even in whatever we consider revolutionary work. Okay. In order to expand their mind and see something and try to do something. And we are on the cusp of the end of the Jewish colony. And yes, Palestinian people have sacrificed 500,000. The Arabic people have sacrificed almost 30 million since 1881 and the beginning of the invasion of North Africa. In the fight against colonialism and imperialism. And we are going to liberate ourselves. There's never been any people on the planet in human history that were liberated by their oppressor. Okay. So yes, there's no doubt in my mind, it will be Palestinians, Lebanese, Arabic peoples, Muslim peoples that are going to liberate ourselves with our own efforts and own successes. On the same time, in the hopes of accelerating this liberation and uplifting some of its negative effects in terms of the sacrifices that come. It is necessary that Jewish anti-Zionists become more active and more sacrificing. And in fact, I would say any minute Jewish rebellion, Jewish revolution that offers sacrifices of life, whether it is armed or pacifist in its formation, will have huge effects. You could imagine if there is some Jewish anti-Zionists that occupy a synagogue or take on arms in any formation, even if they're minute like that, the ripple effects that it has in the Jewish community and in the imperialist order as a whole. If there is a shadow of a John Brown who carried arms to stop enslavement of African peoples in the name of white people, Europeans, and how that small effort led to a civil war in the United States. Imagine if there's a civil war within the Jewish community, how that will accelerate Palestinian liberation. Okay, so do not undermine yourself. This is a problem that I see a lot of times with my anti-Zionist Jewish brothers and sisters. They think that numbers matter. Numbers don't matter. Actions matter. You take an action, the ripple effects of Al-Aqsa flood collapses a whole empire in small numbers. So there is a lot of hope, but hope is in action.
Well, some good conclusions. It's been a riveting conversation, a really awkward conversation at times, and real truths have been told, uncomfortable truths, and people have taken it on the chin. I respect the fact that we've had this conversation. You don't get this happening very often, or I certainly haven't heard it happen very often. What seems to come out is that Israel, or the occupied Palestinian land occupied by Zionists, is already crumbling because of the axis of resistance. There's no doubt about it. But it could be helped along the way with a more accelerated action by the anti-Zionist movement. It does seem as though a lot of the anti-Zionist movement in the West has been also occupied. There are allegations and accusations of some of the major organizations here almost being a controlled opposition, limiting what should and can be done. perhaps it's time to review those policies and review those people who are leading that anti-Zionist movement and often restricting it to certain parameters. Because it seems as though the Zionist movement, the Israelis, and the British Zionist establishment have taken kid gloves off. Everything from the IHRA definitions through to the prosecution of ordinary British citizens for simply pulling up Palestine action signs, or the attack on vast swathes of community with labels of anti-Semitism. All of this is being used and being served up for Israel's survival because it's in trouble. Today, we're even finding that they want to proscribe whole nations and whole institutions of nations in order to shut down democracy, shut down freedom of speech. Something is really seriously wrong. And, I'm with Laith, I think, on this one, in the sense that the more we do, the more radical our actions are, potentially peaceful radical, can be pacifist radical actions, but there needs to be more variety. It needs to be more that will catch the eye, because there is a moment, it does seem as though the Jewish youth, it does seem as though the British youth and the Western youth in general have got the whiff of something very nasty in Israel, and they're not willing to support it. It's on the established anti-Zionist movement to mobilize that and to weld that into something much more powerful. Doing it simply with marches, I don't think is going to cut the mustard, as they say. So let's think harder. Let's think more sophisticatedly about how we can trigger that. Laith put his cards on the table, and I can't necessarily disagree with his sentiments. Rabbi Hayem has certainly put a powerful case for the established work that has been done by the anti-Zionist movement, the sincere amongst the anti-Zionist movement, because there are those who are simply playing as if they're anti-Zionist, but actually are working for the other side. That I'm pretty convinced of as well. So I think we'll leave it at that. There's a lot to do. This is the time to do it. The iron is hot. It needs to be struck now, because the Zionist entity is tottering. It is being dismantled by the sacrifice of Palestinians and the axis of resistance. So we must all be prepared to make the next level of sacrifice. What that will be is down to you. It's down to me. Let's work on it. Thank you for watching this edition of Deep Dive Perspective. Do follow Laith Marouf more closely on his Free Palestine TV site. And Gilad Atzmon is easily accessible on Facebook and other social media as well. And well worth reading a lot of his writings. The Wandering Who is the most powerful book, I think, that you should visit in terms of understanding where Gilad's coming from. And thank you to Rabbi Haim, and thank you to Natura Kartai for the work they do. And it's a sort of lonesome voice out in the Jewish community. But let's think about those synagogues which have just quietly acquiesced to Israeli and Zionist control and are playing safe, and actually are, I would say, betraying Judaism and its true values. Maybe there is a case for focusing on those synagogues and trying to persuade them that it's time to dump Israel, to dump Zionism, and to come back to real Judaism. And that requires a revolution of a theological nature or even a religious nature. I don't know. But certainly it's the Jews who have to lead that. And maybe we Muslims and others will be right behind you if that happens. And maybe we need to come and support you with numbers. If numbers is the problem, it's the duty of 3 million, 4 million Muslims here in Britain to support Natura Kartai if they're going to take that challenge up, I would say.
That's definitely what we're doing, as the rabbi has said. We do work very hard to change anti-Zionist Jews to become a real strong anti-Zionist and real pro-Palestinians.
Thank you very much for your work,
Thank you, Mr. Laith, for having you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laith. Thank you, Gilad.
Palestine, inshallah, from the river to the sea. Thank you, Mr. Galland.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this edition of Deep Dive Perspective. Like, share, subscribe. You know the routine. You won't get these conversations on mainstream television. They're far too scared and they're far too Zionist in their inclinations. Goodbye.